I got 7:30. Please take your seats. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum being 7:30. A couple of housekeeping items. The tellers, if we have a secret ballot, I'm going to let you know who they will be. They're Ann Buckley, Annie Cameron, Mary Heaney, Michael McConnell, Meg Nelson, and Patricia Rogers. Those will be the tellers. I guess we're going to stand back up if you were standing before. We're going to do a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could you please stay standing? We're going to recognize a few individuals that have passed away since our last meeting. We have Mary Buckley, Warren Grant, Joyce Perkins, Morley Piper, and Alfred Stanton. Let's give me a moment of silence for those individuals. Thank you. I'll take a motion to waive. Oh, you can sit down, sorry. I'll take a motion to waive the reading of the warrant. Is there a second? All those in favor? Motion passes. Finance Committee, recommendation on all of the financial articles are yes or? Yes. Okay, thank you. Any non-voters? If you are a non-voter or non-resident, you need to have a card if you are a resident or a voter. If you do not have one, you are not a resident or voting, you need to be sitting over there. So if you don't have a card when you registered, you need to get a card, because that's how we're going to have you vote with a card. It should be a blue card. The only individuals typically that are allowed are Brendan Zabricki, our town administrator. Town council is Jeff Blake, and I believe Erin is in the room somewhere. Where is she? Oh, okay. So you're in the right spot. But if you wanted to, you could sit down. I guess before we start any articles, I think Ruth Breen has some business at hand.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'd like to ask Jeff Soulard to join me. Jeff Soulard is our town accountant. He, this year, is our Employee of the Year. There are 1,000,001 wonderful things. There are 1,000,001 wonderful things that I could say about Jeff. But the person that nominated Jeff said it so well that I'm going to read his nomination letter. I would like to nominate Jeff Soulard for the 2022 Employee of the Year Award. Prior to his appointment as the Assistant Treasurer Collector in 2016 and then full-time accountant in 2021, Jeff was actively involved in the community, primarily as a member of the Finance Committee from 2005 to 2014, serving as FinCom Chair beginning in 2007. He also coached youth soccer for many years. I'm the first to admit that numbers and budgets aren't my forte, yet thanks to Jeff and his patience with all of my questions, the Board of Health budget is submitted on time and with accuracy. Sometimes it's even early. I trust that he's saved the town money with the changes that he's made, such as switching payroll companies, or otherwise he wouldn't have done it. But I'm not familiar with those specifics or any of the other details pertaining to how he manages expenses. However, I do know that he's dedicated, accessible, and friendly. He's here on the weekends and into the evenings, long after the rest of us have gone home, without complaint. In particular, when the Board of Health clerk retired, Jeff and Brooke and Dottie, honestly, did plenty of explaining and hand-holding, again, without too much complaint, helping me to understand how payments and invoices make their way through the town system. While Jeff is clearly knowledgeable in the workings of municipal finance, it is specifically the accessibility and patience that results in a better, more relaxed overall working environment. I'm happy to call him a colleague and a friend. Thank you, Erin. So Jeff, your commitment to this town and your willingness to step up and do what needs to be done, even if it falls outside of your job title, doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you, and we appreciate you. Is firefighter EMT Danny Ball in the room with us this evening? Terry, no? Okay. So Danny Ball is not with us this evening, but I do want to acknowledge that Dan Ball has been a firefighter EMT with the town of Essex for 25 years. When he moved to Essex in 1997, he walked across the street to 24 Martin Street and said, "How do I volunteer?" So 25 years later, he is still a dedicated public servant to our town, and we thank him for his dedicated service. Thank you. Is Mary Eleanor Daigle in the room with us this evening? I know I saw her. Come join me. You look lovely. So Mary Eleanor Daigle is an administrative clerk with our police and fire department. She has served 20 years to our town from 2002 to 2022. Working in an environment which you must gain trust of the officers you're working with, especially the chief of police, as well as the public that we all serve, can be very difficult at times in a climate where confidentiality is always a priority. From the day she began working for the police department, Mary Eleanor has had an innate sense of just how important that confidentiality is, and she takes it very seriously. On a daily basis, she handles her roles for the town of Essex professionally and with a sense of integrity, while balancing her administrative clerk roles for the police department, the fire department, and the harbor division. She truly is an asset to the department on a professional level and on a personal level. She's a friend to those she works with on a daily basis and a motherly figure to most of our officers. Thank you. Chief Francis, you're up next. Come join me. I'm embarrassing everybody tonight. You've dedicated 25 years of service. Chief Francis has been with us from 1997 to 2022. First and foremost, I would like to say that the level of professionalism the chief brings to the job has been paramount to the department operating in a manner in which he began well before he was even chief, starting as an accreditation manager and getting the department certified to getting the department accredited only a few short years later. He's shown he's always looking to provide the best service for people of the town. He has been a mentor to many young officers with a wealth of knowledge of not only the law, but the town and its people. He embodies professionalism and integrity daily, and no job is too big or too small for him. He can often be seen hanging signs or even emptying or removing trash at various community events, highlighting that he is leading by example. That is true. Even sweaty at a car show. As the chief of police, he's led the department through the most difficult transitions law enforcement has ever seen. In his 8th month on the job as the new chief of police, he worked tirelessly with the fire department and public health officials to handle the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, he was tasked with the turbulences of police reform, where the state saw the mass exodus of law enforcement officers as a whole. While all this was taking place, he was overseeing the construction and eventual transition into the new public safety building, while also restructuring the department to provide additional supervision and services to the town in a more fiscally responsible manner. Throughout all of these changes, Chief Francis has been unwavering in his dedication to the town, its citizens, and most importantly, his officers. At a time in law enforcement in which so many men and women have decided to change course, Chief Francis maintains his dedication and commitment to the community, even involving his wife and daughter at many of these events. We are truly blessed to have Chief Francis not only as the Chief of Police, but also as a friend and a monumental figure in our community. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Town Administrator Zubricki. Brendan Zubricki has been with us for 25 years, from 1997 to 2022. And where do I begin? I could go on all night about Brendan. For those of you who don't know, Brendan wears many hats. He's not only the town administrator, but our personnel officer. He's our IT genius, grant writer, handyman, and the list goes on. When I think of BZ, or BZ as we affectionately call him, I think of the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain, the man who makes the magic happen. Brendan is many things to many people. He's a trusted, loyal, dedicated employee, a teacher, a mentor, a problem solver, a wealth of knowledge, a humble person, a friend, an inspiration, a take-charge partner at work with an incredible appetite for excellence. No matter what we need, he is always up to the task, and he never complains. BZ has lightning speed, efficiency, in his memory recall about everything that literally has ever happened in this town is incredible. And then there are the multiple projects that the town has undertaken in his tenure, where he's literally acted as our project manager, including temporary town hall, the renovation of now town hall, the public safety building, the old police and fire station. In addition, he's been the main point of contact for state and business communities through 2 very disruptive DOT projects in town, working tirelessly on behalf of the town, our residents, and our businesses. When BZ is not serving our community, he is still selflessly giving. BZ can be seen driving his Herbie the Love Bug number 53 Volkswagen Bug in parades and parked at the annual police car show, giving out peace bracelets and letting the kids beep his horn. I am honored to be the selectman before you this evening that gets to present this year's Years of Service Award to Brendan Zubricki, and I hope that in 10 years from now, when he hits 35 years, I can do it again. Thank you, everybody.
And I have one more, and I'm very honored to present this particular award. It's the Volunteer of the Year. And although this person has only been officially a volunteer for about 4.5 years now, I can't think of anybody who is more fits the bill of the Volunteer of the Year. Anybody who knows this person knows that they're tireless in their work, they're dedicated to the community, and they're as thorough as can be. There's too much to say about her that I won't. I will just say that I know all of her great qualities, as she is a colleague of mine in town government. Congratulations, Ruth Perrine.
I just want everybody to know that the Board of Selectmen gets to vote on who the Employee of the Year and the Volunteer of the Year are, and we didn't have any Volunteers of the Year this year. Thank you.
Can we give all of the award winners and one more round of applause? I thank all of them. Okay, we're going to get kind of into business. I just want to mention that if you are making a motion, one of the 20, if you could make your way to one of these 2 mics in a timely fashion, and or if you're going to speak to a motion, find a microphone, and it gets the process moving a little bit quicker than waiting. So if you're going to speak to an article, get to a microphone and wait for your turn, and I'll get you in the queue. So without any further ado, I will go to Article 1. Ruth.
Ruth R. Perrine moved that the town transfer from free cash the sum of $6,500 to fund and implement a collective bargaining agreement between the town and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 2905, AFL-CIO, or to take any other action related thereto.
Is there a second? Discussion?
So the town has two union contracts. We have the police contract and this contract. And the police contract was ready to discuss back at annual town meeting. We weren't quite ready for this particular union contract, and everything has been ironed out, and here we are this evening before you to help fund this.
Any further discussion? We're going to use our cards, so if I ask for a vote, if you're in favor, all those in favor, raise your card. Any opposed? Motion passes. Article 2.
I, Paul Rouleau, move that the town vote to increase the existing sticker fees for use of the town's transfer station for the period between February 1st, 2023, after the existing stickers expire, and June 30th, 2023, the end of fiscal year 23, to $250 for non-senior sticker and $125 for a senior sticker, age 65 or older.
Is there a second? Discussion, Paul.
Yes, this article is to revise the cost of transfer station stickers to fund the budget for solid waste disposal for the remainder of fiscal year 23. The transfer station budget is solely funded through the sale of transfer station stickers and bulk item stickers. The current multi-year contract expires in December. The rate we pay currently is very favorable. Going forward, the cost of solid waste disposal will increase significantly. Our current rates for disposal and trucking of one container of solid waste is approximately $850 under the current contract that's set to expire at the end of the calendar year. Going forward, it's going to be more of a competitively priced rate, but it's going to be more in line with the current market rate. So that $850 per one container for disposal and trucking is going to increase to approximately $1,800. So to get rid of our solid waste is going to go from $850 a container to $1,800. Pretty large increase. So to meet the increase for the FY23 budget, the proposed sticker fee for the second half of the year will be $250 for the standard sticker and $125 for seniors for the next 6 months. Thank you.
Further discussion, will you?
Stan Hilton, 25 John Wise Ave. I would like to get some clarification on this. When I last went to get a sticker this past summer, the woman at the water plant led me to believe that they were only going through the end of February. Then we were going to like a pay-as-you-go system, like many other towns use, where you buy bags. Is something changed, or is that never going to happen?
Paul, would you like to answer that? Did you hear the question?
I think so. Well, we did the initial sticker that people purchased was for the first 6 months of FY23. This is for the balance of FY23. We did look at a number of options, and when the FY24 budget comes out, we may change our operation. We're not sure. But the current protocol will be to remain operating the same as we currently are, but with an increased sticker fee.
Just one other quick question. The 250 that you specified, is that an annual?
You have to be talking through the mic.
The 250 that you specified a few moments ago, is that an annual cost for the sticker?
That $250 fee for the standard fee is for the next 6 months. It is not a fiscal year cost.
All right, okay, I can understand the expense. All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the article, raise your card. All those opposed? The motion passes. Article 3.
I, Paul Rouleau, move that the town transfer the sum of $60,000 from free cash to increase existing fiscal year 2023 appropriations for transfer station budget, Department 430. Said appropriation to be distributed amongst only the expense line items in said budget as shown below. 430 Station Recycling Department, voted at town meeting, was for the trash contract.
I think we need to say raise and appropriate, so read it again. Town, raise and appropriate the sum, and just read it again. Because it was originally gonna be this. We're not taking it from free cash.
Okay, so what is it?
So you're just gonna read this, and you're gonna say that the town raise and appropriate the sum. Don't say transfer, and don't say free cash.
Raise and appropriate, strike
Yeah.
transfers.
I
and
can
raise
write
and-
it up for you.
No, I can just,
Because we gotta,
okay. Excuse me, I need to
Revise that.
amend Article 3, starting over on Article 3. I, Paul Rouleau, move that the town raise and appropriate the sum of $60,000 from free cash.
not for free cash. Raise and appropriate, forget about free cash.
Sum of $60,000? Okay. Okay, excuse me. I, Paul Rouleau, move that the town
Vote to raise and appropriate.
vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $60,000 to increase existing fiscal year 2023 appropriations for transfer station budget, Department 430. Said appropriation to be distributed amongst only the expense line items in said budget as shown below. So trash contract, voted at annual town meeting of $110,000. Increase amount, $55,000. New budget, $165,000. The other Department of Maintenance, voted at town meeting, annual town meeting was $7,500. The increase amount is $5,000. The new budget is $12,500.
Is there a second? Discussion?
Yes, this is an administrative item to increase the transfer station budget from the budget that we voted on at annual town meeting by $60,000. That way we can execute and work with contracts to keep the transfer station operating for the next 6 months.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 3, raise your card. Thank you. All those opposed? The article passes. Article 4.
I, Paul Rouleau, move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $280,000 to make improvements and repairs to the town transfer station, including, but not limited to, the replacement of the current trash compactor with new equipment, the purchase and installation of new recycling handling equipment, the replacement of perimeter fencing, the repair or replacement of any element of the transfer station building, and any other matter related thereto.
Is there a second? Discussion, Paul?
We all see the transfer station, and all the existing equipment is approximately 40 years old. So we intend to replace the mechanical equipment, do a little site work, maybe get a cardboard crusher on site, make some improvements. So that $280,000 will come out of town free cash for improvements at the town transfer station. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 4, raise your card. Any opposed? The motion passes. Article 5.
I, Ryan Madrigal, move to the town vote transfer the town-owned lots listed in Article 5 of the town meeting warrant from the Board of Selectmen for general municipal purposes of the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of conveyance, and further, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey any and all said lots, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into all agreements and to execute any and all instruments as may be necessary or convenient on behalf of the town to effect said conveyance on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deem appropriate.
Is there a second? Discussion?
So this article is to move said properties in Article 5 for sale so that the town can generate income via property taxes and for the actual sale of the properties on St. George's Island Road.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. This requires 2/3. It's transferring property from one place. All those in favor of Article 5, raise your card. All those, okay, thank you. All those opposed? The motion passes by 2/3. Article 6, so declared. Sorry. Thank you, Pam.
I, Jody Harris, move the town vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 5B, to create a stabilization fund for the establishment, maintenance, and beautification of areas under the town's ownership or control that contribute to placemaking, such as pocket parks, streetscape improvements, plantings, banners, and the like, and to transfer from free cash the sum of $5,000 to add to said stabilization fund.
Is there a second? Discussion?
So we're starting to create a fund using meals tax and short-term rental tax, which generally the large percentage goes to free cash, to take care of the properties, mostly along the causeway, pocket parks and such. And it would maintain those properties from early spring until the end of the growing season to help in what they call placemaking for businesses in town.
Any further discussion?
In your beautification question, Edward Cushing here from 15 Spring Street. Are we going to do anything about cleaning up the Bill Allen property? I mean, beautification should start right there.
I think we don't own that property, so it doesn't fall under us
Well,
maintaining it.
you have a demolition budget of $50,000 to tear that property down.
Sir, we don't own it, so it's not under our control. So it doesn't fit anywhere in this. Sorry.
Okay.
Any further discussion? This requires 2/3. It's setting up and funding a stabilization fund, so this requires also a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of Article 6, raise your card. Thank you. All those opposed? I declare it passes by 2/3. Article 7, I so declare. I'm going to get it right one of these days, ma'am.
I, Shelley Bradbury, move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $20,000 to improve, maintain, and beautify certain areas under the town's ownership or control, including any necessary design services or anything incidental thereto.
Is there a second? Discussion?
I'm going to have BZ speak on that.
We're going to let Brendan speak about this.
So the town just voted to create a stabilization fund that will, on the long term, care for those town properties, things that you see along the causeway, eventually the property where the old fire station was, et cetera. This article is to get some things jump-started in the spring so that some of these areas can be beautified right away, and then we hope that the other fund will eventually take over. I can mention that the town did receive a grant for $25,000 to have a consultant come in and help us with the overall unification of how the theme of these areas should be handled in town. And so this plays right into that. again, it's just money to get started.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 7, raise your card. Opposed? The motion passes. Article 8.
I, Martha Mazzarino, move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $100,000 to be used as a match to state grant or state legislative earmark and/or private gift funds for the design and construction of decorative street lighting along Main Street in downtown Essex, including the purchase and installation of new streetlights and anything incidental or related thereto.
Is there a second? Discussion?
This is a supplement to the grant.
Martha, can you hand that, do you have notes on that? Or do you,
What?
You need to hand that motion in.
Hand this in. What if I want to read from it?
That's fine, I just need it before you go back.
This is to supplement the grant from the local rapid recovery plan that we got for $160,000. It's for the decorative lighting in the business district on the causeway. And I don't know if there's anything else to add.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of Article 8, raise your card. Opposed? The motion passes. Article 9.
I, Ruth R. Perrine, move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $30,000 to purchase and install new digital radios in the Essex Fire Department vehicles and apparatus and anything incidental thereto.
Is there a second? Discussion, Ruth.
So in 2019, the fire department was forward-thinking and realizing that technology was advancing and our radios were going to eventually be outdated. Back in 2019, under the guidance of then Fire Chief Dan Dowsett and support of Gloucester Captain Nick Ouellette, we applied for a grant with neighboring communities of Topsfield and Middleton, and we were successful in getting that federal grant. The total amount was about $450,000, and Essex was awarded $143,238. We were able to buy 30 portable digital fire radios with those funds. The grant funding did not support truck or apparatus radios. So because of the technology advances, our radios do not keep up with kind of the times that changed. And so our fire truck radios cannot communicate with cities and towns. Those radios can only communicate directly with regional dispatch, who triages those calls out to the neighboring communities. This has posed a problem when we are doing mutual aid calls with our neighboring communities. Gloucester is kind of the primary one. We can communicate with them on our digital radios, but we have to go radio to radio and not direct communication. So the fire department is looking for the town to appropriate $30,000 so that they can upgrade, I believe it's 5 vehicle radios.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 9, raise your card. Opposed? The motion passes. Article 10.
I, Nat Crosby, move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $20,000 to retain the services of a consultant or consultants to perform the historical property surveys or perform research data collection for said surveys and perform historical planning work, all to inform and advise the Essex Historical Commission.
Is there a second to that motion? Discussion?
So this just helps us to perform our planning goals as a historic commission. Before, we used to utilize CPA funds for that, but the state no longer allows that for planning services. So this is just a way for us to continue to serve the community and research individual properties and the like.
Further discussion? Ed? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Ed, you can come up too.
Is there somebody else?
Sheldon, I believe. You on?
Want me to talk? I don't.
Ed, go, I'm going to have Ed go while he's got a mic. Go ahead, Ed.
Me?
Go ahead.
I would urge you all to vote against this. The articles that we previously approved were about dealing with the town's property, improving it, making it beautiful. What you would be voting for here is a first step that will, the inevitable end will be telling people that own older houses what they can do with them. And I'm not in favor of that. If you've got an old house, you know the kind of maintenance that it takes. You know that you have your own tastes, what your family needs are, and you don't need to go to the Historical Commission and have people that don't live there with you telling you how you should live your lives. I think that, you know, the Historical Commission can have a perfectly valid function dealing with town properties and what can be done with, you know, any of the properties that the town has control over. But I would resist giving the town and or the Historical Commission any additional authority over the rights and the property rights of the people of their homes. Thank you. There already was surveys done of the historic homes in Essex, and I think that if you go to the Historical Society, they have pretty good documentation of the elder homes, the homes that were built for the ministers and such. And so the documentation of what those houses are is readily available. We don't need to revisit it. We don't need to bring in consultants that are going to be setting up a program that the next step will be, well, now we want to enact authority to control what you do with your house. So, thank you.
Further discussion up the back? It's on. It's on.
It's on? Okay. Paul Penoyer, 57 Grove Street. I ditto what Mr. Neal says. I'm always concerned when articles like this come up somewhat out of the blue. I know the warrant was published in its final draft a couple of weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago. But my concern is that we haven't had time to understand really the implications, some of which Mr. Neal pointed out. I would also like to know specifically what houses or communities are being targeted, or not targeted, but would be referred to this consultant, and if Canomo Point houses and the community is part of that discussion.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, so no particular houses or communities have been put on a list at this point in time. Canomo Point in particular has had a survey in the past, so that is not probably high on the list of what would be looked at. In no way does this give any authority to the Historic Commission to have any more control over any particular properties. It just gives us the information to be informed and to discover historical information about individual properties. That can be an assistance if there is a demolition delay that comes to us on one of those particular properties. But most of these properties I'd be looking at are older properties that most would not likely be coming to us for demolitions. And the properties that have been surveyed in the past, most of that effort was done in the 1970s. It was usually done not by professionals, but by the homeowners themselves. And in some cases, we have, 2 surveys that were done by, a husband and wife, and the information is conflicting each other. So this is, really a continuation of what should be happening. We had done some in 2018, and we had done a survey plan in around 2013.
Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of Article 10, raise your card. Opposed? It's a close one. I might need the tellers for this. Just majority. Can I have all those in favor raise your card again, please? All those opposed? I'm going to say it does not pass. Article 11.
I, Lisa O'Donnell, move that the town vote to transfer from the sale of real estate fund the sum of $1,150,000 to purchase the property at 30 Apple Street Assessor's Map 142, Lot 8, which has been held in Chapter 61A status, giving the town a right of first refusal on its purchase, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into all agreements and to execute any and all instruments as may be necessary or convenient on behalf of the town to effect said acquisition on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deems appropriate.
Is there a second? Discussion.
I think probably most people in the room are familiar with this particular parcel, but it is an 11.5-acre parcel of land that immediately abuts the town property at the transfer station and DPW yard. So as you drive into the dump, and you go across the culvert, and after you go across the culvert, the entire right property line, when you look out, is this property. There's 11.5 acres of field there that is entered off of Apple Street. What this property would do for the town is give us the opportunity to create a second means of access to that property, which you can now only access over Landing Road. As I mentioned, when you go down Landing Road, you cross a culvert. That's an old culvert that someday is going to need to be repaired, hopefully get to that before it actually fails. So having a secondary access there would be important, not just for your trash, but mainly for the DPW vehicles that need to come out in emergency situations. So this is a really good price. It's $100,000 an acre for this property. The town has a lot of different uses that we could do on this property, but we're not even going to talk about that now. Right now, the decision tonight is whether to purchase the property or not. The money comes from the sale of real estate funds, and there is $3.395 million in that fund, so this only takes less than a third of that money out of that fund to purchase this really pivotal property for the town. I could talk about this far too long. No one wants to listen to me that long. So if there are questions, we can entertain them, or if anyone else wants to speak to it. What we don't want to talk about is anything that's going on at the other end of Apple Street, and we also don't want to talk about what the town could do with this, because that's not the question tonight, is whether to buy it or not.
Further discussion? Get to a mic.
Hi, Brett Prince from 7 Essex Reach Road. On this question, I think it's really an interesting opportunity for the town, and I respect the thought that you all have had in terms of our opportunity to buy this property. But I think when we look at the cost benefits, I'd urge everyone just to think about both. That there is a cost of over $1 million that comes out of a capital type fund for us to buy this property. But if you put the 9 proposed houses on this land, if they each cost about $2 million, this is going to generate $270,000 in revenue each year for us. And if we negotiate access rights to the transfer station as a town, we should be able to get the best of both worlds. We'd maintain that secondary access, and we'd start to generate some new revenue. So I don't know what the future of this property holds, but I think there is another benefit to moving forward with potentially the person who's already designed and has a plan for construction now.
Further discussion? Rob?
Rob Fitzgibbon, 18 Main Street. I've often said that Essex never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity, but I hope in this case that we don't miss this one. It sounds like there's some sound practical reasons to consider purchasing this land with regards to needing access to the transfer station, and we are going to eventually need to fix that culvert. And I also think there's a potential opportunity. I mean, we're not going to discuss like what could actually be done with this land, but the fact that if we seize this opportunity now and take it, then in the future we'll have we can figure it out and we can do whatever we want. I did know the former owner of the property, and I know that I think this is something that she would want. So I urge the citizens to vote yes on this.
Up in the back.
Peter Crocker, 6 Lufkin Street. I sort of a question about the real estate fund. Is it only able to be used to buy real estate? What are the restrictions on the fund?
Brendan, can you answer? The question was, is the Commonwealth Point Fund, sale of real estate, can it only be used for buying real estate?
The sale of real estate fund can only be used for capital purchases, that is, purchases that you're allowed to borrow money for 5 years or more. It doesn't mean you have to purchase real estate with the money just because the town received the money from the sale of real estate. You could go out and buy trucks with it. Anything that you could borrow on for 5 years or more is permissible out of the sale of real estate fund.
Thank you.
Can I just a follow-up question?
Sure.
So the $3 million in that fund, it could be used to rebuild the school we're in right now that's going to need to be rebuilt at some point down the line, correct?
Yep. Could it be used as, the question was, could it be used for the school if we have to spend money on the school?
Could that money be used toward a school? Yes, it could.
Thank you.
Another question?
Hi, Tom Daniel, 27 Pond Street, and I just wanted to speak in support of the town acquiring this property. I think it's been stated it's a very reasonable price for something that could be an asset to the community, and we can have some time to figure out exactly what that looks like. But opportunities like this do not come often, so I'd encourage folks to support it, preserve an opportunity for down the road.
Further discussion? Jeff?
Jeff Soulard, 87 Martin Street. I just wanted to clarify a point that was just made about the potential revenue if the 9 proposed houses were to go on this site. I believe the number that was used is $2 million houses. So if you had 9 $2 million houses, each one of those houses would generate $31,400 worth of real estate tax under the current tax rate. With that being said, that's $282,000. The cost of sending a student to Manchester Essex Regional School District is about $25,000 a student. So $2 million houses are likely to have 1 or 2 children in them each. So that $280,000 of real estate tax, while it may sound very appealing on the surface, could very easily be a net loss. I mean, you could have 3 kids in one of those houses that's costing you $75,000 a year, and you're getting $31,000 of real estate tax. So I think there is a bit of planning here that preventing those houses, that is not necessarily presenting us with more revenue. It may actually be presenting us with more net costs.
Up the back.
Scott Solombrino, 25 County Road. My question is, could the fund also pay for the rebuilding of the dump and the transfer station?
Yes, because those items are capital items that you could borrow money on for 5 years or more.
So let's all take a rational look at this. They just voted to raise the fees at the dump. There's rumor that pending in 6 months, they're going to try to swindle everybody in town with the whole bag system, which doesn't work in Hamilton and Ipswich. Ask people who live there, and they will tell you how trash is really a nightmare in those towns. And we're now talking about taking $1.1 million of the money that could pay for the running of all that equipment that we have to replace and not continuously raise the fees. My opinion is the tax rate is already high enough in the town of Essex, and I think we should be reasonable here and not be spending money as we head into a recession at a time when you're going to have all kinds of real estate issues that's already beginning to happen. And we're out there now trying to buy a piece of land with a lot of speculation of what's going to happen with that land. I would rather take the sure bet, have the money in hand, pay for the schools, pay for the transfer station, and skip the land purchase.
Point of clarification, Mr. Moderator?
Sure.
So the money, the $280,000 in capital could be paid for out of that fund, but the transfer station operational costs cannot be paid for with that money. Also, the fee that was mentioned is only to cover the operational costs. So that will have no effect. Using that fund will have no effect on that fee because the fee is not going to be used to pay for those capital purchases.
How are you going to pay for the transfer station now, though?
You have to stop. You've already spoken. I'm going to have Lisa speak next.
Hi, I just wanted to point out, again, I will reiterate that the price for this property is $100,000 an acre. It's an excellent deal. This is also, as I mentioned, contiguous to the property that we own. Historically, Essex as a town has been land poor. We've always had a hard time finding places to do things in town. This won't necessarily solve all that problems, but for once we can be smart, make the right decision, pick up this piece of property, 11.5 acres, for this price. And even if all we ever did was carve a road off the side to give ourselves a second access to the transfer station and DPW yard and resold the rest, we'd still come out way ahead. So there's really not a downside to this.
John?
Hello?
You're
Is it on? So I agree with Lisa.
Could you identify yourself?
I'm sorry, John Guerin, Belcher Street. This town often is penny wise and pound foolish, and I think if we don't act on this, we've lost another one of those opportunities. The property at $100,000 an acre is extremely cheap. If this developer wants this for this price, we can certainly find another one, but we would be in control of it. If we don't buy it, we have no one to blame but ourselves for whatever happens there, whether it's 9 houses or someone turns around and decides to put a 40B, 40R in, like Ipswich is getting slammed down their throats, like Manchester's getting slammed down their throats. If we don't buy this, we have no one to blame but ourselves if something happens to that property that we don't control and say what's going to happen to it, rather than a developer who controls it and says what's going to happen to it. So this is well-spent money. We get access. We could always sell it and make the money back. It isn't money that's going to disappear in an annual trash fund. This is going to be there, something that we can use and increase in value rather than decrease. I hope we vote in favor.
Brian?
Ryan Madrigal, 9 Patriots Landing. I just wanted to say that I agree with the comment of the other person that we should vote to take this land, because even if we did resell it back, the town gets to decide what to do with it, and we can make the property value as well ourselves on top of the resale. In that turn, if we did nothing and just sell it, we'd get the property value for it. Maybe even if you stayed a year, it'd increase again. And additional to, if we did sell it and someone built 9 houses, we'd still get the property income taxes for it. Without that, if you don't buy it, then you'd only get a missed opportunity there, and only the person that has it now will make that opportunity. Where else can you get an acre for $100,000 in this day of pricing? You know.
Further discussion, Ed?
I'd just like to point out that the town has already paid a significant price for this property. It's been in what they call 61A, which I believe the town's been collecting like $250 in tax money for the last 40 or 50 years for this property. And the cost of that was the town gets to get first refusal at fair market value, and that's what it is. So we already have contributed towards the price of getting this property. Other towns buy open space because they're aware that residential development is a loser. And we don't know what real estate needs the town might have in the future, but this land is about 4 feet in elevation higher than the transfer station property. It's dry. It would have access from 2 roads. It's invaluable. We'd be foolish not to buy this. Please do. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none?
I find it interesting that no one has mentioned that this is a beautiful piece of agricultural land. A couple, 2-3 years before she died, I talked with B.J. Fry about this land, and sadly, she thought that her family presumably would keep it in 61A, and she kind of slipped away believing that. And her family had no interest in that. They wanted to cash it in for everything they could get. The town's own climate resiliency plan emphasizes that a priority in town is to protect open space and in particular agricultural land. Now, I think it would be naive to think that the town will jump at the idea of keeping that land open and planted, but if the town doesn't act on this, then there's no hope of that. It's something that could be brought up in the future. If the town doesn't buy it, there's going to be 9 houses on it, and it's going to look like every other development in town, and it's going to be full of kids draining the resources of the school. So keep that in mind, that we could preserve the opportunity to preserve this land by buying it. The town would get the road they want to the dump. Hopefully they do a nice job so it doesn't destroy the beauty of that field. There just aren't that many beautiful open fields left in town, and they're going fast. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, it's 2/3 for purchase of a property. All those in favor of Article 11, raise your card. All those opposed? I declare a 2/3 vote, so declared. Article 12.
I, Ruth R. Perrine, move that Article 11 be reconsidered.
Is there a second? Discussion?
So just to be clear, I am in favor of Article 11. I'm just asking for reconsideration so that we can close the chapter on this and not have it come at the end.
Any further discussion? There's already a motion. Lisa? Mm-hmm.
What we want to do here is to vote no, that we don't want to reconsider the article, and that because it's been reconsidered, it can't be reconsidered again. So this time we're voting no, we don't want to reconsider it.
Any further discussion on the motion to reconsider? Seeing none, all those in favor of reconsidering, raise your card. All those opposed to reconsideration, raise your card. The motion does not pass. Article 12.
I, Benjamin Buttrick, move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the following sum to be added to the following fund. It's just one. $200,000 to the purchase of vehicles and major equipment that qualify as capital purchases fund.
Is there a second? Before we have a discussion, I have to clarify the previous vote. It requires a 2/3. It was actually a unanimous vote, but that also passes 2/3, I declare. Sorry. So good thing someone's keeping me on my toes. 2/3. Now you can discuss that, Ben. Thank you.
All right, so the town has a number of special purpose funds, and this one is specifically to acquire vehicles and major equipment for the town. This transfer will bring the balance to $445,000 specifically for emergency vehicles. We expect to need between $750,000 and $1 million in the next 3 years. What this fund does is it allows to basically self-fund these purchases so we don't have to finance. And in this environment, that would be costly, and maybe in the future. So we're just setting money aside for this purchase.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 12, raise your card. Opposed? Motion passes. Article 13.
I, David Driscoll, move that the town vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E½ to amend Section 2-26 of the town's general bylaws to change the propose of the existing revolving fund for the Board of Health from, quote, purchasing supplies and pharmaceuticals for public health nurse and for public health nurse labor, end quote, to, quote, expenses, supplies, and contractual services necessary for the operation of emergency dispensing sites and clinics, including medical and non-medical ancillary personnel, end quote, and to increase the present spending limit of $10,000 for the fiscal year 2023 to $50,000, with such spending limit to be applicable for each fiscal year until such time as town meeting votes prior to July 1st for the ensuing fiscal year to increase the same.
Is there a second? Discussion?
A little bit of historical perspective. In 2008, the Board of Health created a rotating fund, and the purpose of the rotating fund was to be able to buy supplies for our flu clinic. And at the time, what we were doing was we billed the insurance companies. The insurance companies would reimburse us. So this was a fund that was not funded by the town. There's no tax dollars involved here. It's basically a rotating fund that was supplied by insurance companies and by donations. Over the course of the years, initially we were getting about 300 to 400 flu shots a year. This was in the H1N1 pandemic. The past 5 years prior to COVID-19, we were doing about 160. Now, fast forward, over the past 18 months, we've administered over 1,600 vaccines. And as a result, our costs have gone up, and also our reimbursements have gone up too. It takes a while for us to get our money back from the insurance companies. So with that money, we've been using it to like get our supplies, to also help pay for the public health nurse, and also to help with ancillary staff to help administer those clinics. Again, I want to emphasize, this does not cost the town of Essex any money. All we're asking is to be able to increase our spending limit in that rotating fund.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of Article 13, raise your card. Any opposed? Motion passes. Article 14.
I, Paul Rouleau, move that Article 14 be indefinitely postponed.
Is there a second? Discussion or no discussion? Nope, postpone. Article 15.
I, Paul Rouleau, move that Article 15 be indefinitely postponed.
Is there a second? All those in favor of postponing Article 15? Any opposed? Passes. Article 16.
I, Paul Rouleau, move that the town vote to transfer from sewer enterprise free cash the sum of $150,000 to design, engineer, and construct repairs, upgrades, improvements, and/or replacements to any aspect of the municipal sewer system, including but not limited to replacement of grinder pumps and related equipment, and anything incidental or related thereto.
Is there a second? Discussion?
Yes, our sewer system is approximately 17 years old now, and we've been going through a program to replace the 250 grinder pumps that we have within our system. Grinder pumps are something that lifts the system, brings it up to the street level. There's about 250 of them in town. So we've been slowly replacing all of them, and the money that's being used to pay for this comes out of sewer free cash, which comes from sewer billings. It doesn't come out of the general fund. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Rob?
Rob Fitzgibbon, 18 Main Street. So I don't know if many of you are aware, but like grinder pumps are like the zombie apocalypse for Essex. They just keep coming back. So I was wondering if either Paul, you, or a member of the Finance Committee could talk about how many pumps have we fixed so far, how many are left to do, because it seems that each year we just keep paying for more and more grinder pumps.
Well, this has been a continuous program. The initial grinder pumps were installed 17 years ago we have approximately 250 grinder pumps. They've been repaired. Our initial set that was installed, admittedly, it had a large amount of maintenance cost to it, hence the need to determine a better system. We've come up with a system. It's called an E1 grinder pump. The maintenance costs for those, the number of calls outs that we've received over the last few years because of the improved system has been reduced. So I think he's right. Our overtime budget was high for the first dozen of years or so that the system was running, but those costs are starting to come down as our new system has been installed and implemented.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 16, raise your card. Any opposed? Motion passes. Before we get to Article 17,
Discussed Article 14, postponement. I think we need to vote on that.
you said I didn't call for a vote. Is that what you said?
Correct. We voted on 15, but not 14.
Did I miss it? Did I miss it? I think everyone thinks I have two people that think we did, but if we want, should I just, I know I got 15, I can't verify 14, so should we just, what? She said there was a vote. Okay, so we're gonna move on, sorry, we're good. But I'd like to recognize Bruce Tarr, who has come in the building. Is a rumor here. Bruce, how are you tonight? Would you come on up and say a few words? I'm going to give you the opportunity. Come on up. We're way ahead of schedule, so we got all the time in the world, Bruce.
Well, thank you, Mr. Moderator, and through you to the members of town meeting. I'm sure there were a lot of people that gasped when you said there was plenty of time as I was approaching the microphone. But I do, first of all, want to thank everyone for coming out to town meeting tonight and making important decisions for the future of the town. I also want to congratulate the town's Employee of the Year and the town's Volunteer of the Year. I know that they were recognized earlier, and I want to add my congratulations and thanks to them. And I also just wanted to give you a really quick update on something that's been happening on Beacon Hill, which is interesting, and that is we continue to have surplus tax revenue. And you've been reading a lot about that in the newspapers, but I wanted you to know that, particularly through the work of our town administrator and the Board of Selectmen, that some of those resources will be coming back to the town of Essex. And one of the most significant things that I wanted to bring to your attention is that the fire chiefs in Essex County have been working collectively to try to establish a regional training facility closer to home so that our firefighters can get training nearby rather than having to go to Stowe, Massachusetts, where we do have a wonderful training facility, but for folks to go there takes them out of the community, takes them offline. It's not very efficient. And through the good work of the Essex County Fire Chiefs Association, and again, the board and others, we were able to fund in the most recently passed economic development bill $1.4 million to be able to begin to design a training facility in Essex County for our firefighters who desperately deserve that kind of a facility. Two other things I would bring to your attention. We are working collectively on Cape Ann to explore the possibility of doing regional wastewater treatment as opposed to having individual communities be saddled with that burden. We think it could be more cost effective, and we think it could be better for the environment. So there are resources that are in both the budget and the economic development bill to look at that. And last but not least, we continue to provide some resources to the town for projects locally that have to do with resilience to climate change and the various things that are changing in our environment. Again, credit here to the board and to the town administrator for looking at those challenges and being out ahead of them. And we're providing resources so that those projects can be contemplated and they can be executed. So resources coming as we have them in state government, and that reflects a strong partnership between the town and your legislative delegation and state government And that's the kind of partnership that we ought to have and the kind that works in everyone's best interest. So I appreciate the opportunity to share a few words. I don't want to prolong town meeting any longer than I need to, but do want to say it's an honor to represent you. It's an honor to work with your local officials. They do an incredible job, and we have a great partnership that I value every single day. Thank you very much.
Just two things, Bruce. Thank you for the refund. Everyone, we can all thank him for our refund. And you can't have either one of those employees in the state, so don't come looking for them. We need them too much. Okay, I'm sorry. Now we're back to Article 17.
I, Christopher Wolf, move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $42,550 to replenish the Finance Committee's reserve fund for the fiscal year 2022.
Is there a second? Discussion?
This is a fund. It started the fiscal year at $70,000. We've spent $12,500 on some repairs that were unexpected at the new public safety building. This will bring the balance up to $100,000 and allow us to deal with any budgetary shortfalls between town meetings.
Further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of Article 17, raise your card. Opposed? Passes. Article 18.
I, Jeffrey Soulard, move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $200,000 to fund the town's other post-employment benefits, or OPEB, trust fund.
Is there a second? Discussion?
All right, so every year in the fall when we have free cash certified, we evaluate whether we can put some money towards our OPEB liability, which is basically the cost of paying for health insurance for retirees. In the last few years, the government has made us, they've introduced an accounting law that makes us value this outstanding liability, which is about $4.3 million. Essex is actually ahead of the curve compared to most cities and towns in the state. We've funded about 42% of our liability. Most cities and towns are closer to like 15%, I think. And so this year, what we'd like to do is to put in $200,000 of our free cash, which would move our total percent funded of our OPEB liability to just under 47%. So this is really just shifting money from one bank account into another that is helping us offset a future liability.
Any other discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of Article 18, raise your card. Opposed? The motion passes. Article 19.
I, Nina McKinnon, move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the following sums, all within the fiscal year 2023 Police Department budget: $9,496 to the part-time salaries line item, $9,603 to the police officer salaries line item, $6,479 to the education stipend line item, $2,333 to the night differential line item, $900 to the firearms training line item, $750 to the police technology pay line item, $975 to the police uniforms allowance/vest line item, $3,900 to the shift coverage overtime line item, $3,799 to the in-service training wages line item, for a police department total of $38,235. And further, to transfer from free cash the sum of $6,100 to the senior clerk line item in the assessor's budget, the grand total of transfers facilitated by this article therefore being $44,335.
Is there a second? And discussion? No discussion? Okay. All those in favor of Article 19, raise your card. Opposed? The motion passes. Nina, before we do Article 20, I believe is yours as well? Before you start that? I just have an announcement. I will not be able to make the annual meeting in April or May next year, so I'm recommending that we would appoint Jody Davis in my absence, which you would be voting in May at that meeting. I'm just recommending that Jody Davis be the deputy or moderator at that time. But we don't vote on that here. It's voted in my absence at that meeting. Just giving you that announcement. Good. Article 20.
I, Nina McKinnon, move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $500 for unpaid bills from fiscal year 2022.
Second? Is there a second? Discussion? No discussion. No discussion. This requires a 9/10 because it's putting in a previous fiscal year. So all those in favor of Article 20, raise your card. Any opposed? The motion passes by 9/10, I declare. I believe that is the end of our business. Motion to adjourn. Out. Second, out. It's not debatable.